Hi everybody, my name's Ellie Bowett. I'm the Regional Lead for Northern Europe for APMG International. I'm here today with Paul Wigzel from QA. Paul is a learning consultant who's been working in service management for over 25 years. And Paul's going to tell us a little bit today about how the landscape of service management has changed over that time. Hi Paul.
Hi Ellie, nice to speak to you.
Very nice to speak to you. So tell us then, how do you think service management has changed during the time of working in the industry?
I think it's changed fundamentally, to be honest. When I first started in service management, we delivered IT systems to organizations, and that was the main thing. You just delivered a system to the organization, and the organization took the IT and ran with it in order to deliver value for the business. Things have changed fundamentally in the last 25 years. We no longer have IT systems. When I joined the police service many years ago, I joined an information systems department. When I left the police service, I left an information services department. Now that might seem subtle, but it's quite important, because what happened was there was a fundamental shift where they realized that the IT wasn't just a facilitator, it was actually an integral part of the business. So therefore, we got to a situation where in order to achieve the business, they needed IT. So the heads of IT and the heads of service management in those days were asked to actually join the exec board and became part of the strategic decision-making team of the organization. And fundamentally, service management has changed across all market sectors. So if you look at manufacturing, or you look at healthcare, or if you look at policing, as in my world, or if you look at the military, or if you look at banking or retail, IT is fundamental to the delivery of the service. And therefore, the requirement to manage the service becomes even more important. And that's where service management kicks in. Because having the technology is one thing, but having the process and the practices in the background to support the IT, to enable the business to utilize that technology in order to deliver value is the key. And that's where service management kicks in. So when ITIL started back in the late 70s, early 1980s, it was just an idea that worked with the UK government. But it's now been fundamentally taken on, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of organizations across the globe utilize this best practice because, as I say, the service management has become strategically so much more important. And as this growth of technology increases and the requirement for the technology assists the strategy, then this role of the business relationship manager becomes even more important. So as service management has grown and increased and become more and more important, so has the role of the business relationship manager. And the business relationship manager is now fundamental to the success of nearly every business you can talk of.
That's great. Thanks, Paul. That's really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about this business relationship management role that you talk about?
Sure, happy to do that. In truth, the business relationship management role kind of sits on top of the service management role. It is an integral part, and certainly if you look at the ITIL best practice, it is considered the relationship management practice is a key component of service management. But in truth, if you look at the business relationship management activities, they work at a strategic and tactical level between the customer and the service provider. So they are there to effectively represent the service provider to the customer and represent the customer to the service provider. And it used to be in the old days where it would be a part of somebody's role. So it would be, oh, you can be the operations manager. Oh, and you're doing a bit of business relationship management. But as services become more and more complex and become more and more important to the success of an organization, then this role has grown with it. And now the business relationship management role is pretty much seen as a full-time role in its own right. And in some organizations, the larger organizations, there are even teams of business relationship managers constantly working to meet the customer demand and the service provider's capability. And I often talk about them as being like the conduit. In the business relationship management qualification, we talk about them being the navigator or the connector or the orchestrator between the business partner and the service provider. So this role is In simplest terms, is like the filling in a sandwich. So one slice of bread is your business partner, the other slice of bread is your service provider, and the filling between the two is the business relationship manager. So they are being that conduit, being that communication channel, being, if you like, the link between the two, and being able to interpret what the customer wants and turn it into service provider speak, and interpret the capability of the service provider and turn that into a service offering for the customer.
No, that's great. Thanks so much. So what are the kind of skills that people need to have to kind of move into that business relationship management role? And perhaps where might they have come from? What might their journey into that role look like?
Oh, that's a great question, and I wish I could answer it really simply. If you're one of those people who can pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time, then maybe business relationship management is for you, because you have to be all things to all people. You've got to keep with the analogy going. You've got to keep a whole load of plates spinning, because you've got to keep both the partner happy and the service provider content and happy as well. Because if you're not both gaining value from that relationship, then the question is, why are you doing it at all? So the sort of skills you're looking for is the ability to think in a strategic manner. You need to be able to work with the business partner to look ahead, look forward, to be looking and working 6 months, a year, maybe even 18 months ahead. It's not an operational role. It's about looking forward and planning and strategizing where we're going to go in the future. Conversely, you've also got to be looking at the service provider and saying, what are you currently able to do? What current skills and abilities have you got? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Where are the gaps that we need to fill? It might be that we need to go to additional suppliers or third parties in order to help support the seamless delivery of these services. So you've got to be able to think in a strategic manner. You've got to be able to think and understand what's happening now. You've got to be great at people skills. You've got to be almost an expert at body language, because you need to be able to read and interpret that body language. And I often say, when we're doing training for business relationship management, that the better you are at body language, the better the BRM you're going to be, because if you can understand body language and control your body language, then you can effectively influence people. So we're talking about communication, we're talking about having a strategic view, we're talking about understanding the operations side of the service provider, and also recognizing the importance of services and the value and the service portfolio. So it really is, as I say, you've got to be able to pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time. So where do we expect people to have come from? Probably from a senior service delivery role, or they could have come from an account manager role. So if you're a salesperson, the BRM role could be something that you could move into. If you're tired of doing the sales bit, why not actually work closer with the support teams? And therefore, maybe the business relationship manager role is for you. If you're somebody who has been a project manager and you've worked on big projects, then again, the business relationship management role might suit you when we're talking about portfolios and projects, because it's that ability to think at multiple layers at the same time. So there's a large array of job titles, a large array of people with the skills to be good business relationship managers. It's just about getting them to recognize that actually this could be a career path they could take.
Thanks, Paul. And just finally, then, you mentioned the training that you obviously deliver for QA at the moment. Can you tell us a couple of reasons why sort of organisations might want to put their people through this training? What kind of benefits can having the business relationship manager role in your organisation bring?
Oh, certainly from all of the multiple business relationship management practitioner courses that we have done, one of the biggest things that always comes back, bizarrely, is networking with other people doing the same role. So people who actually attend the course get a huge amount out. We'll talk about the courseware itself in a second, but get a huge amount out of spending 3 days sitting with people, even if that's virtually or in reality, sitting with people who do the same role, who have walked the same pathway, who have struggled with the same issues. So when we are working through the courseware, we talk to people about, setting a strategic view, about understanding what strategy is. We talk to them about recognizing the relationship between the service provider and the business partner. We talk about demand shaping. We talk about the exploration of services. We talk about servicing those requirements. We talk about recognizing the value that's coming for both parties and harvesting that value, and reassuring and ensuring that there is a clarity of what the relationship manager's role is, that they are not just there to be beaten by everybody, but they are that navigator, that connector, and that orchestrator. They bring people together. They are that facilitator and that communicator and that conduit. So people learn a huge amount about things like value leakage, about some of the communication skills, recognizing what a portfolio is, sitting and recognizing where the portfolio fits in with program, with projects, and then we even dive down into some of the measurements and what measures should be using, and ultimately about framing the message. So if you're talking and working with both the business partner and the service provider, what are the nuggets that they want, and why would they be buying that service, or why would they be using that service, and what are the links? So there's a huge amount of benefit from attending the course. Not just you get a qualification, which will be a differential if you're ever in an interview situation, it would be suggested, but also that actually you get to work alongside and talk and negotiate and work and understand how other companies, other organizations do the same thing that you've been struggling to do for the last 10, 15 years.
Thank you so much, Paul, for your time today. I understand that there'll be some more content regarding the business relationship manager coming out from QA, and there will be a webinar as well that people can sign up to. So we'll put a link to that webinar. So if you are interested in today's content and would like to hear more from Paul on the role of the business relationship manager and whether it might be right for you in your organisation, you can register and join us at the webinar. Thank you so much for your time, Paul. It's been great to speak to you and get your views on the world of service management today and how things have changed in the last 25 years.
Thank you, Ellie. It's been a great pleasure.
Take care.